Musique comme savoir qui se greffe à Cosmopolis et qui essaye d'accompagner aussi les thématiques que Cosmopolis propose. Donc, comme celle de cette édition, donc, Repenser l'humain. Nous recevons donc ce jeudi deux Africains, deux Angolais, deux aussi représentants de l'Afrique lusophone, deux luthiers, donc forcément deux sculpteurs. Quand on est luthier, on est sculpteur. On sculpte des objets destinés à produire des sonorités. Deux chercheurs, la liste est longue, mais pour finir, deux musiciens. C'est peut-être la définition, l'une en tout cas, définition, description de la musique dans la plateforme qui les a réunis, et une plateforme collaborative comme celle-ci, comme Cosmopolis. Donc cette plateforme s'appelle Sikaya, une plateforme, je le disais, collaborative, et une plateforme au-delà de sa fonction musicale, qui a choisi comme élément la musique, mais nous le verrons si nous avons le temps, que cette plateforme dépasse le cadre de la musique, puisque c'est une plateforme aussi qui répond aux conséquences des zones de guerre, aux conséquences des problèmes culturels, politiques, sociaux dans les zones de guerre en Angola. C'est une plateforme également qu'on peut voir qu'on peut relier dans ce qui se passe dans d'autres pays lusophones, d'une façon peut-être plus traditionnaliste, celle-ci étant une création, donc une créativité pure pour répondre à des problèmes sociaux. Je pense à ce que la Guinée-Bissau et le Cap-Vert ont créé au lendemain des indépendances, et à travers un ancien rituel qu'on appelle le fanado, qui est un rite de passage, mais que les Guinéens de Bissau ont utilisé ce rituel pour définir l'indépendance comme un grand fanado où il fallait libérer finalement tout le peuple, et que c'est le peuple guinéen qui était arrivé à l'âge adulte. Donc c'est comment on peut utiliser aussi le passé et le convertir en tout cas le rendre un peu plus contemporain. Ce soir, nous recevons Victor Gama et Lulendo, donc deux musiciens, deux chercheurs qui travaillent beaucoup avec les archives sonores. Donc, je disais, au-delà de l'Angola, c'est pas l'Angola, il faut regarder cette carte autrement. C'est plutôt une géographie sonore qui engloberait la Namibie, la Zambie, toute l'Afrique australe, avec les problèmes géopolitiques que peuvent générer les tensions qui sont délouées. Vous savez que tous les pays lusophones d'Afrique sont les derniers à avoir accédé à l'indépendance. C'est très récent. Avant-hier, c'était en 1975 seulement. Ces pays donc ont pu bénéficier d'une intelligence de résistance que l'Afrique avait lancée depuis le Nord, je dirais, depuis peut-être l'un des pays les plus résistants en Afrique, je dirais l'Algérie, avec la création du FLN, du Front de Libération Nationale, qu'on retrouve dans tous les pays lusophones. Donc, sous d'autres formes, au Mozambique, on a le Front de Libération de Mozambique, on dit Frélimo. Dans votre pays, je crois que même si c'est le MPLA et l'UNITA qui se partagent le gros gâteau électoral, peut-être 90%, il y a quand même un Front de Libération de l'Angola, et il y a peut-être aussi un PDA qui existe toujours. Et ça a dépassé les frontières africaines, puisque le Bahreïn aussi a son Front de Libération nationale. Et je parle de politique parce que toutes ces organisations de lutte avaient aussi leur branche artistique et culturelle. en Algérie, la capitale culturelle du Front de Libération nationale, c'était Tunis. Donc, pour l'UNITA, pour le Frélimo, il fallait aussi, je pense, se déplacer. Mais d'autres musiciens aussi ont repris le flambeau. Je pense à Miles Davis, par exemple, et en 1973, il a enregistré Calypso Frélimo. Donc, la musique a toujours été un moteur d'élaboration musicale. Je dis élaboration parce que j'ai en tête ce livre d'Edouard Saïd. On a beaucoup parlé d'Edouard Saïd lors des derniers jeudis, mais sur d'autres théories de contrepoint, donc de polyphonie, mais là c'est plutôt d'élaboration. J'entends par élaboration une philologie, une pensée en mouvement. Donc c'est toujours une musique en mouvement. Donc élaboration, je veux dire par là qu'il faut le voir comme une œuvre qui s'actualise dans la production de cette même œuvre en tenant compte des réalités socio-économiques, du temps, du lieu, de l'espace. Il faudrait voir cette musique et au-delà de cette musique, ce mouvement, Sikaya, au-delà de ce mouvement, l'influence qu'un tel mouvement peut avoir dans une région comme l'Afrique australe également, et avec comme, non pas instrument, parce que l'instrument ici, ce sont plutôt les joueurs. Donc, ce Kisenge, ce Senza, ce Kalimba, il a différents noms, mais on peut dire ce balafon de poche. Il faut savoir que le balafon mesurait au début 6 mètres. Ce balafon de poche, le Kwakanza disait qu'il n'y a que avec cet instrument qu'on pouvait avoir l'impression qu'on touchait les sons quand on jouait avec. On a l'impression de toucher les sonorités. Comme nous ne sommes pas très très nombreux et que nous aurons peut-être l'occasion d'engager un dialogue, de revenir, je propose qu'on laisse la place à Victor Gama et à Lulendo pour démarrer cette dernière rencontre musicale. Je vous prie d'accueillir Victor Gama et Lulendo.
for me and Lulendo to be here, participate in Cosmopolis #2. We've been here last year and saw how fascinating this exhibition is. For me, it's also a big privilege because it's the first time I'm playing with Lulendo's instruments, and we kind of are improvising a bit. And so I want to introduce you to this platform and show you the musicians that are currently represented here, their work, and and also take you on a tour of Angola, and how the project started, and how we want to move forward in soon, hopefully. This is a project that can't happen without gathering some resources. But so the project started in 1997, kind of spontaneously, when I was at this point, which was a battleground during the 80s, that joined the army of Angola and the Cuban army against the invading forces of South Africa during the apartheid regime. This place was called Cuito-Guanavale, which is the intersection of the river Cuito and the river Guanavale, which then is a tributary to the Okavango River, the Cubango River, like we say in Angola. And this was in a very short break in the conflict between UNITA and the government forces. I'm talking about 97, but the big battle of Cuito-Guanavale happened in 80. Well, for quite some years in the 80s, but it ended in around 87. So I was in a project and I was doing recordings. The place was totally surrounded by minefields, and so people, the communities there, the village and the people were completely isolated. They wouldn't be able to travel or to move too much, and there was always accidents, people stepping on mines, children. There was only a UN post, and this was a break in that conflict, and there was a peace process, and so we were able to be there for about 2 weeks, and then ended up staying for almost a month because there was no way out. Couldn't find a way to get out. That's how isolated the project was. But what happened was that the first people that surrounded us, because people were seeing us, it was a group of artists, and people thought that we were journalists. So they were immediately interested in talking to us. But the first people that came to us were children, and lots of children, so a big group of children. And then they wanted to help us out, and they were always with us. We made some friends there. So because they saw a microphone they were also starting to bring in, slowly, gradually bring in their instruments. And the instruments were usually made out of military material that was spread around the area. So you would see crashed helicopters, crashed planes, lots of tankers, supply tankers, tanks, ammunition boxes everywhere. Stuff that was already covered by nature and more or less already under a lot of almost on the ground, right? Disappearing. Some of it was old, some of it was still recent. So I started recording the children, and they would bring in their instruments, and we would have sessions. And so I'm playing just something, one track. But the conflict restarted soon after we left, and usually, at that time, Angola was more like an archipelago. You would have to fly to get to places because there was a lot of danger if you went by road. So in 1998, still on another project, I went to with a musician from Soweto. We went to the border of Namibia because a lot of Angolans had fled towards the borders of Angola. Many went to Zambia, to Namibia, and to the DRC. When we came, I actually made my trajectory was via South Africa, and this was a project, kind of inquiring about all this movement that had happened. We were in Angola, and we didn't, we saw those people coming from South Africa as the enemy, and they saw us as the enemy. So we were kind of, and for me at that time, it was the first time I went to South Africa, and so I went recording as well in churches, interviewing people in lots of places. But I was collaborating with a musician from Soweto. He came here to Lulendo, which was a point of entrance of the South African forces. And here we met Moana Japão and his cousin, and we heard for the first time this instrument, which they call tikaya. And we talked a lot during that week that I was there. Shaker, kind of. It's played like this, but you will see there's another video. And so we talked a lot, and they manifested very vehemently that they couldn't get their music out there, that it would be interesting to somehow, be able to record and transmit somehow or promote the music. And so the idea of creating a platform started there. And then it was impossible to return and continue the project until in 2002 the war ended. And this was a conflict that had lasted 27 years or something like 30 years, from the independence until in fact it was a sequence of conflicts, first with South Africa and with many other forces, and then the civil war between that was caused by many forces as well, but that's another conversation. So the next, when the war ended finally in 2002, I was able to go to Benguela, to this area here. So we have Namibia here to the south, and we have the DRC there. And recorded some musicians here in collaboration with NGOs and cultural associations, Angolan NGOs and cultural associations that had been working a lot, especially in emergency relief, but they were already working with theater, music, and dance with people that were that had been very affected by the war and that were displaced in this on the coast here. So I'll give you an example. This is Veio Primeiro, and I don't remember all the names. So you see that a lot of the musicians are actually people who work the whole day in their fields, in their crops, and that musician in particular was playing an instrument that's called the mburumbumba, and we met in the same area another musician that played the same instrument and another instrument. So the way we establish contact with musicians is by engaging also the local administration, and then the local administration introduces to the traditional leaders, which in Angola is called Sola, in the community, in smaller communities. What many times happens is that both state institution and traditional institution, the people working are actually family. So there isn't a big divide, and there is the traditional authorities in Angola are quite respected. So here we okay, you can see that our resolution at this time, this was 2003, was very poor. We had a little camera of 2.0 megapixel definition. They're now 25 or something. But also, so we had a team and we had a laptop computer and a sound card, microphones, and someone would always be taking notes. Here there's a very interesting tradition of drummers who are women. So I'm going to show you a short video here. Okay, so we've been to Benguela, but we also went to the interior of the province, and we met, for instance, Miranda Niva and his group. He was a healer, so there were people here in healing sessions. So one of the instruments that is here, but we haven't seen it yet, but I'll show you, it's not that one, which is some, it's still a rare instrument in Angola. I mean, a lot of these instruments almost disappear. I'll play a little bit more, but show you the chiumba or chizumba. It's an instrument, it's only like a little harp with 5, 6 arches or bows from which strings come to the bottom of a sound box. And we met one of these musicians that had flee his village with his family, and the only object that we was able to bring was a chiumba, which was a musical instrument. Let me see if I can find it. Well, let's play this. So his name is Rodrigo Secul. That's how it's set up. As you can see, it was 2005. We've got another recording of Rodrigo here. You can see him play. Jump to a more recent phase, which was Huila. Huila is the Planalto Central. It's very high mountains, and we went. Actually, I was in one. And let me show you again the Tsikaya. So years later, we find this again the same instrument, although this musician called it Lusana. So the project is on the web. It's www.tsikaya.org. So you can go and visit and spend more time if you wish. This is finally we found the Tsikaya, and although David Ndungu called it Lusango, instruments have many names depending on the region, the province, and let's show you not this one, but yeah. So this is a group. Now we find lots of groups of mainly women. Sometimes with musicians, drummers. Sometimes the drummers are also women. Go and show you something also very interesting. For instance, these two musicians were called lots of Chinese shops and Vietnamese shops, and so suddenly lots of guitars popped up, blue guitars and pink guitars, and so you would find photocopying shops in the most remote areas of the country, and there would be a Chinese or Vietnamese family, and many times also clothes and instruments, like for instance these guitars. When there was no guitars, then people would make them, but that I'll come back to that because we've got some archives here, earlier archives. Let's go to Huambo, the province of Huambo, and I'm going to go a little bit also over the menu here, so you can read a little bit about what Kaya is, and we've got 2 CDs, and actually we've almost run out of CDs, but you can listen to them on Spotify, Apple Play, and we've got our teams here. For instance, now we're going to Huambo. This is the team and the collaborators in Huambo. We worked with the Author Rights Society in Huambo. They're a partner in this project, and some of the people working in these institutions are actually also artists or musicians or theater. So we end up, not just recording music, but also recording maybe a theater piece or something. And I want to show you these guys. They are a duo that has been working for more than 40 years and never recording an album. So this is something that's quite common, and that kind of, makes you or kind of puts into perspective what happened and why this has happened. Like, people cannot really record their music and put it out there, although they really want to do that, and how most of the country became a silent zone, especially during the conflict years. Now it's changed, and there's more more opportunities. A lot of people have smartphones as well. Good. So I'm going to come back here to the menu. You see here that we've got projects or projects. One is the Tsikaya sound map, which is this one we're looking at. Then we've got the Huambo sound map. We realized that most people that we talk to outside Angola don't know a thing about Angola. They have no idea. And in fact, the image is that of a country that's kind of, almost like in the dark ages or something. So we created a sound map of Huambo, which was during, especially in the 90s, when the conflict really took very, very grave proportions. This city was practically destroyed. And so we created a sound map to show people what this is, how and where these people live, although not all of them live on the city. I'm trying to find something that can show you a little bit of the city first. So this is actually an area where there's a university to one side and there's a sports center on the other side. So you can, if you like, you can come here and explore a little bit. This is, well, this was a session in a Portuguese cafe, very nice, but very expensive at that time. That was more or less the time when, there was this image of Luanda, the most expensive city in the world. But in fact, it was because the Kwanza, which is the unit, the currency, was over inflated, it couldn't float, so the value was very artificial. And for instance, this is a place, a library, and we found by chance William Tonet, which is a journalist that was very vocal against the government of Eduardo dos Santos, and he was talking about here. He was talking about Martin Luther King.
Lutou pelo direito e pela afirmação dos negros na América. E ele tinha um sonho. Qual era o sonho dele? O sonho do Martin Luther King não era de ver os meninos negros na escola. Não. Se fosse esse, era muito doutor. Não valia a pena. O sonho dele era de ver os meninos negros e brancos na escola. E depois a sair e a entrar juntos. Ora.
So that was the library. It's still there, and there are lots of events happening there. Let's quickly go here. This is like the central square of one. Of course, lots of the architecture is colonial. But there are new buildings, and I was there about 3 weeks ago, and there's a new library where lots of things happen as well. So concerts, theater. Okay, so when you go to project, you'll find also a collaboration with Colombia, but we won't go into that. Let's go back here, and so I just want to show you this musician. She was actually doing a campaign, or she was part of a campaign against domestic violence, and one of the songs was about that, so she sings in the national language in that area. Just a few pictures of Belle Sanja and what she was using. So these shakers sometimes are also called Lusan, but she had more things. She added more. And one of the aims for us is to find old archives that were done before the independence, and we're still looking. There were some musicologists, European musicologists, that came to Angola and were doing research. One of them was Ulrich Martini from Germany. I'm not sure if it's German or Austrian. No, it was German. But let's show you, for instance, where's the marimbas? Marimbas. Okay. Well, I told you about a guitar. That's a self-made guitar. They're white men. People are still making guitars today.
Le musée va fermer. Nous vous prions de bien vouloir regagner la sortie. Nous vous remercions de votre visite et espérons avoir le plaisir de vous accueillir à nouveau très prochainement.
I wanted to show you the marimba because marimba is one of the instruments that really kind of almost disappeared, but it's making a comeback. This was recorded in the late 60s. Before going, because we're going to stop here, but I forgot to show you this duo. They were 2007, 8, 9, called Ovana Poinamwe, quite incredible musicians. Try is to we record them, but then we involve them in the process of kind of more or less editing the head and the tail. So cutting out the bits that are not. It's not a mastering process yet, but they get involved in the process, although briefly. But these two were kind of nomads. They were roaming about and making their living by playing in parties or ceremonies, things like that. And this is a drum that was made by himself, by the drummer. And I'll show you a video so you can see. We can start from here. Oops. Let's try again. From the beginning. archive that we've had access recently, about 2 years ago, is the ex-Diamang company archive. The Diamang company was the Portuguese company mining diamonds in this whole area, the Lunda and Mochico, the both Lunda North and Lunda Sul. And so they were mining in rivers and lots of places, and they created an archive in that area. So for like starting from the 30s, 40s until the late 60s, they created these archives. And the archives were almost lost until they were found almost outside in the rain and stuff. And now they are in Coimbra in Portugal, although there are copies in Angola, here in the Musée du Mundo.
Mesdames et messieurs, il est bientôt 21h, le musée va fermer. Nous vous prions de bien vouloir regagner la sortie. Nous vous remercions de votre visite et espérons avoir le plaisir de vous accueillir à nouveau très prochainement.
And, okay, I'm going to stop here, but just let you know about this archive. It's actually also online, part of it, so anyone interested can look for. If you come here, you'll see the reference. This particularly is a recording in a Sobado, a commune where you can see Kissange, so these instruments that are here. And the interesting thing is that everything is kind of really very well measured. There's lots of detail in this. So there's a lot of interesting information here. Different types of Kissange. Fundamental cosmogram of Angola. It's very connected to the Bakongo and this whole area, which used to be the Congo Kingdom, or before the Portuguese arrived. And what happened during for many decades actually is that the instruments, especially during the conflict years, the widespread conflict, lots of people moved, millions of people moved, and so you won't see people playing Kissange, although Kissange is a symbol in Angola, is in poetry, is in writings, is everybody knows the word Kissange, but when I do a lot of workshops with children in schools, even in this area, in this Lunda, and kids don't know what these instruments are. It's amazing. It's kind of surprising, and although now there seems to be kind of, some people are coming out, some musicians, researchers are trying to recover, but there is one musician, and he's actually here tonight, who is Lulendo. Lulendo, although he has been living here in Paris, sometimes he go back, right? you've been back, and right now we're kind of trying to restart this project with more funding, accessing a program. Let's see what happens. But so we want to have a bigger impact bigger work, because you can see that there's a lot of musicians to find and to collaborate with and bring them into the platform and actually transform this platform in ways that musicians can actually have more, feel more, or be directly contacted. But I want to now call Lulendo to come here, Lulendo to come here, and I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about your instruments. So he not only plays amazingly the quisange and has developed a whole new, lexicon, lots of music for quisange, but he also builds and develops the quisange, so projecting it into the future.
Donc moi je viens de l'université de la forêt, comme disait mon père. C'est à travers cette façon de vivre que j'ai appris le goût et que j'ai aimé cet instrument. La diversité sonore des instruments de l'Angola m'a permis de prendre conscience de ce que j'étais vraiment en tant que musicien. Et ça m'a permis de m'enrichir aussi, mais je suis tombé amoureux de quisange. Et je fais de cet instrument comme ma colonne vertébrale pour mon travail. Et ça m'a permis, cet instrument, d'apprendre davantage qui j'étais. Et j'ai décidé que c'était à mon tour aussi de pouvoir être responsable, comme ceux qui nous ont précédés nous ont légué cette richesse. Comme moi, je suis passionné, que j'ai aimé, que j'ai appris à construire cet instrument, je me suis dit, je ne veux pas m'arrêter à me servir tout seul, comme un égoïste, mais c'est un devoir pour moi de laisser une trace, pour transmettre aux générations futures, pour que ça ne soit pas perdu, parce que ce n'est pas seulement l'instrument qui se perd, mais c'est toute une culture qui se perd si cet instrument disparaît. Alors, je me suis senti vraiment comme une mission qui m'a été confiée par nos ancêtres qui m'ont légué ce don de jouer cet instrument, de fabriquer quelque chose de beau pour ne pas parler beaucoup, mais pour que la jeunesse s'intéresse sans qu'on puisse le forcer, qu'ils aiment par ce qu'ils entendent, qu'ils aiment par ce qu'ils voient. Et ça, c'est l'objectif que je me suis fixé et mon devoir de transmettre le peu de savoir que j'ai sur cet instrument pour la génération future. garder pour nous, sans que ça profite aux autres, ça n'a pas d'importance. Mais le partager avec le plus grand nombre, pour nous, c'est une grande satisfaction de continuer à faire ce travail. Si je me suis lancé dans la fabrication, ce n'est pas seulement pour moi, parce que je sais que ce n'est que du matériel, un jour je le serai. Mais si je le fais parce que j'ai ce souci-là, que ça reste, ça continue à exister, parce qu'à travers ces instruments, on peut raconter des histoires.
Merci à Lulendo, merci à Victor, merci pour cet exposé enrichissant, merci pour ce voyage à travers cet instrument que vous continuez à fabriquer, mais aussi que vous ressuscitez que ce travail sur les instruments traditionnels, sur cette carte, ce mapping de la musique, des musiques de l'Angola. C'est un travail faramineux, c'est un travail nécessaire. Il faut savoir qu'en Afrique, depuis 1905, l'Afrique a perdu 3000 langues. Et avec ces 3000 langues, toutes les musiques qui étaient déclinées dans ces langues. Et l'Afrique continue d'en perdre à cause de la pensée de l'urbanisation. Donc c'est un travail nécessaire, c'est un travail qui devrait inspirer le continent au-delà du